Hello.
Hello.
I don't know much about the lore of Left 4 Dead at all. All I know
Neither
is
do I.
I played it with a friend, my friend Blue, usually, who knows a lot more about Left 4 Dead, probably. He plays it
Yeah.
a lot more than I do.
I just know you're like one of four people. And you just trying to survive and get out of town or something. Yeah, with a bunch of zombies chasing after you.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe one day you guys can go watch my stream about us doing it. That's the goal. Yeah, but other than
I really
that,
don't know.
I'm not sure how the military would be secretly winning in it, but we'll see, I guess.
I think it's safe to say that if you've been part of the Left 4 Dead community, or even
Eh,
found a little bit of
kind of
interest
in it.
in the lore, then you've probably seen a video that says the military in CETA are completely destroyed, they've failed, they're completely gone, the country's done for, the infections
Yeah.
destroyed everything. But even for the most dedicated Left 4 Dead lore enthusiasts, today's topic might feel like a long shot. But hear me
Maybe.
out. I believe the military might actually be winning in the Left 4 Dead universe.
How?
Winning, however, doesn't mean defeating the green flu outright, which is an impossible task given the scale of the outbreak.
Yeah.
Instead, I define winning as the ability to survive, regroup,
Oh.
and fight back effectively.
Okay.
Now, it's true that portions of the military were overwhelmed. Not every branch or operation has survived intact, but
Of
there's
course.
compelling evidence suggesting that a functioning United States military still exists. If you're skeptical, stick with me. I'll explain.
Okay.
Throughout Left 4 Dead
Let's see
2,
where it
we see
goes.
signs of military presence and activity. In the parish, multiple fighter jets, likely F-18s, fly overhead, bombing bridges to contain the infection.
Alright.
At the campaign's finale, survivors are rescued by what I believe is a CH-53E Super Stallion, a helicopter commonly used by the
It's a
Marine
military
Corps.
helicopter,
In Dead
yeah.
Air, survivors escape on a Republic of Korea Air Force C-130 Hercules transport plane, which suggests
There's someone putting jet. Pretty much aircrafts and well, yeah. The unless somehow someone sneaks getting bitten on the plane or on the submarine, they can't fully lose. Which,
Yeah.
considering how the military would probably be aware of that, they would be checking at all times for bite marks. I mean, I would be. So yeah.
the U.S. military withdrew forces from South Korea to bolster domestic operations. And in Blood Harvest, the survivors leave in a Finnish XA-180 APC, another
Cool.
intriguing detail that shows international
APCs
military
always have usually
coordination
cool designs to
or
me.
surplus utilization. These vehicles tell us a lot. First,
The
the
fact that
use
they're
of
still
Marine
running.
Corps and Navy aircraft
Yeah.
implies the military is operating from coastal or island bases,
I mean,
likely still under control.
making perfect sense.
Second, the retrieval of South Korean aircraft hints at allied nations like South Korea maintaining some stability, with North Korea likely untouched due to its extreme isolation. The games also
Probably.
provide subtle hints
It's
of
possible.
military activity. In Swamp Fever, fires are still burning and vehicles remain powered, suggesting they were recently abandoned. The survivors are often
True.
just behind evacuation efforts, showing the military is actively moving populations and working to contain the outbreak. The Parish campaign finale offers another clue.
Alright.
Somebody want to grab that radio?
So
Hello?
this shows that they're still around at the very least.
My name's
Yeah.
Nick. There's four of us on the west end of the bridge. We are not infected. Yeah, you could say that.
SU-7 propagator. Okay.
Okay, we're heading over now.
You heard the man. Lower the gate.
Well, let's cross the bridge and finally get out of this hell.
the military's
Yeah.
new approach. Rescue 7 is asked if their team is equipped to handle carriers, which are infected individuals who may not show symptoms. This
Which
change
shows
in
that they're
protocol
ready.
indicates they've learned from earlier failures,
Yeah.
adapting their tactics to minimize risk. The United States also has a significant amount of geographic and strategic advantages due to the overall size of the country. While much of the continental US is overrun, several strategic locations would likely remain strongholds for the military.
Yeah.
Alaska, which is isolated and sparsely populated, its geography makes it a natural refuge.
True.
And the Hawaiian Islands, which are a critical asset. The Hawaiian Islands are home to major military bases like Pearl Harbor, and Hawaii's
they are, in
isolation
fact.
and self-sustainability
You make some good
make it a
points here.
stronghold against the infection. Hawaii in particular plays a pivotal role. In 2024, it houses over 250,000 military personnel, veterans, and their families. With 4 major bases and extensive naval resources, including aircraft carriers, Hawaii could serve as a launching point for counterattacks or rescue missions. Aircraft carriers, with their
That is
mobility
possible.
and secure environments, are ideal for staging operations against the infected while remaining virtually untouchable.
Yeah, just
now,
send
let's
bombers,
talk
more or
about
less.
the chance of long-term survival and victory. The infected themselves present a potential advantage. If their bodies continue to decompose without proper sustenance, they may not survive long-term.
Yeah.
Special
Just
infected,
wait a
given the
few
physical
weeks.
strain on their mutated bodies, might deteriorate even faster. This means the military's
Understandable.
main task could be simply waiting out the outbreak from their strongholds.
Like, if they work how zombies mostly think to work out, where they actually do need to still, survive, and eventually are
Yeah.
just going to break down, then, yeah, all you have to do is really wait it out. They'll decrease in number just naturally. It doesn't matter how big or what, they'll eventually just go down eventually. I say eventually twice. But besides that point,
Yeah.
they will just decay over time. Like, some of these things are huge, which muscle mass, in order for it to, stay, requires lots of protein. Anyway.
Once the infected population diminishes, the military could return to the mainland, search for survivors, and begin the process of rebuilding. In the Left 4 Dead universe, survival itself is a form of victory. The
Yeah.
military may not have saved the entire civilian population, but their presence, adaptation,
Could save
and
what's
strategic
left.
strongholds suggest they
Yeah.
are far from defeated. Whether operating from Hawaii, Alaska, or aboard naval vessels, the U.S. military appears to be buying time, learning from their failures,
Yeah,
and
it's basically a
preparing for
waiting
a
game.
potential resurgence.
Pretty sure.
This isn't a traditional victory,
but
but in a world consumed by the green flu, it's as close as you can get.
yeah, I can see why.
Modern militaries constantly train for apocalyptic scenarios.
True.
From chemical weapon
From what I
attacks
know.
to large-scale pandemics.
There are quite literally companies made to deal with chemical warfare and such. I don't remember the exact name of the company in the army and whatnot for that, but yeah, they are quite literally trained to deal with this kind of thing.
Strategies focus on containment, survival, and rebuilding. The evidence in Left 4 Dead aligns with these principles. Bombing bridges, establishing quarantines, and deploying advanced hardware like the previously mentioned vehicles are all hallmarks of containment strategies. Take the jets flying over the parish. Their presence isn't just a flashy backdrop, it's an indicator of coordination. Fighter jets require functional air bases, trained personnel, and supply chains. The fact that the military can still maintain these operations says a lot about its remaining strength.
Yeah,
Similarly, the
here's the
C-1
thing people don't realize. Airplanes take a lot of maintenance and coordination in order to do well. Like, most if not all aircraft, it's a lot of work to keep them up and running and also coordinate with them.
130 Hercules from Dead Air, flown by South Korean forces, shows international coordination because South Korea is a highly militarized nation, and its
Yeah.
involvement suggests that some nations
Every
are still
single male
operational.
citizen has to
This
serve 2
raises a
years.
broader question. Could parts of the world outside the US be faring significantly better? That question is very difficult to answer. Valve has really limited lore on the rest of the world in Left 4 Dead, but from what we do know, the original plan for the Left 4 Dead 3 game was that it was an open world title that took
Huh.
place in Morocco. So we at least know that
Oh,
the virus has
cool.
spread to Morocco and parts of
If
Africa.
we ever get that.
Therefore, it could have a prevalence around the world, but again, with South Korea's population having forced military service, it is very likely that they are simply remaining strong and faring better than a lot of other nations on that side of the world.
It is very
While
possible.
we're talking about the military strength as a whole, we also need to consider the United States' presence in extreme and remote regions, such as the Arctic and Antarctica. These locations offer unique advantages in the fight against the green flu. Their isolation makes them virtually unreachable by the infected, creating an unparalleled opportunity for the military to establish research stations and
Yeah.
develop potential cures or countermeasures against the virus. While I'm not saying a cure is guaranteed, the strategic value of these areas cannot be overstated.
Of course.
Antarctica, for example, is so far removed from major population centers that the only viable way to reach it would be via long-range transport planes such as those operated by the US military. This level of inaccessibility makes it a natural fortress as long as we avoid any quote-unquote thing-esque scenarios
What's the
involving
thing?
buried horrors in the ice. The United States military's global reach demonstrates that even if the continental US were in disarray, its forces could still operate, albeit in a more limited capacity. Whether on the frozen tundras of the Arctic or the icy plains of Antarctica, these regions might hold the key to humanity's survival, or at the very least act as a safe haven for the remnants of civilization.
Alright.
Now, let's address what the US military hasn't done or what they could do better on a local level to contain the infection. One of the United States' greatest assets is the sheer number of privately owned firearms. With an estimated
True,
400
in terms of
million
like-
civilian-held firearms.
Oh
about
god damn,
one-
I didn't realize it was that much. There's
Damn.
120 guns for every single American.
120 per 100 Americans.
Per
The
100.
US leads the world in private gun ownership. This statistic doesn't even account for military and National Guard armories, which
Oh.
are stocked with additional firearms and supplies stored in secure facilities across the nation. In a scenario like the green flu outbreak, it would be in the military's best interest to arm what
More
remains
guns
of
in
the
America than there
civilian
are
population.
people.
Every infected
Yeah.
killed by
That's
a
insane.
survivor
I
is
never
one
really
less
realized
the
that.
military has to deal with, which reduces strain on already limited resources. The military could employ various methods to achieve this. Since radio communication is largely unreliable in the Left 4 Dead universe, one potential strategy could involve dropping pamphlets or leaflets over infected areas. These materials could include maps or instructions directing
It's not a
survivors
bad
to
idea.
nearby National Guard armories or
No.
military supply depots. This approach has several advantages. For one, it gives unarmed survivors a fighting chance in areas overrun by the infected. Secondly, it poses little risk. Zombies aren't about to start reading instructions and raiding armories themselves, so even
Yeah,
if these
they're
pamphlets
dumb.
fell into infected areas, the potential downside is minimal. Sure, there's no guarantee that anyone would find or use them, but considering the virtually endless supply of paper, ink, and basic printing resources available in the US, it's a low-cost, high-reward strategy.
Yeah.
While this might not be a long-term solution to eradicating the infection, it could help buy time and empower isolated pockets of survivors. In a world where every advantage counts, arming civilians could significantly tip the scales in humanity's favor, or at the very least, keep hope alive a little longer. It's already well established that the green flu is primarily airborne, making it incredibly difficult for the average survivor to avoid infection.
Yeah.
However, National Guard armories likely contain more than just firearms. They're also stocked with critical protective gear such as hazmat suits, respirators, masks,
Ah.
and other equipment designed
Never
to
knew about
combat
this.
airborne threats. These resources could prove invaluable to civilians navigating areas riddled with the infected. Given the current state of the world in the Left 4 Dead universe, many of these armories have likely already been overrun by the infected.
Yeah.
This means that the military wouldn't be losing much by encouraging civilians to access them. By providing survivors with both weapons and protective equipment, the military could simultaneously reduce the spread of infection and bolster humanity's ability to fight back against the green flu. This is again a low-risk, high-reward strategy. Hazmat suits and respirators would not only help prevent airborne transmission, but also give survivors a psychological boost knowing they have a fighting chance. If the military were to distribute information about these resources, whether through pamphlet drops or some other means, it could have a profound impact on survivor groups scattered across the US. And there you have it. A deep dive into why I believe the US military might not only be surviving, but possibly even winning in the grim, chaotic world of Left 4 Dead.
We made a lot
From
of
their
good points,
strategic use
honestly.
of strongholds like Hawaii and the Arctic, to their ability to mobilize, adapt, and arm civilians, it's clear that while humanity is far from reclaiming the world, the military
They're
still has a
fighting
fighting
on.
chance to outlast the infection. But what do you think? Did I miss any key evidence, or do you think the military's fate is even bleaker than I've outlined? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed
Well,
this
if they're
video,
still
don't
able to
forget
communicate
like,
and speak
subscribe,
to
and hit
survivors,
the
then
notification.
obviously that they have some form of power. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Chrono?
I think as long as they keep on fighting, I think they'll be able to do it then.
Yeah, just maybe. It's very possible.
Yeah, very possible.
Thankfully, Fabler stopped spamming Dark Souls. But either way, thank you all so much for coming by. If you like what we're doing here, please do consider following. And we'll, see you all later. Goodbye.